It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tyrone Lowe. The show is called The Legends. I want to thank everybody all over the world that actually subscribes and show me love on my show. Because without you guys, there wouldn't be no legends. In the House of the Legends, this guy I met years and years ago, and I had no idea of his status. I've listened to his wife's records, but I had no idea that he was part of it. And whenever you see Lady of Sky, you see this guy. In the House of the Legends, I give you Austin Kwame Wilkinson.
Hey.
Welcome to the Legends,
What's
man.
going on, baby?
How's it going, man?
Oh, good to see you again, man.
Man, yes, So it's funny because we was having a conversation at Kango Kid's birthday.
I remember the boat ride.
At the boat ride,
Yeah.
and I had no idea that you were actually affiliated the way that you was actually affiliated.
Yeah.
And then when you gave me your telephone number, and I called you one day, and this is when I found out about you were affiliated with Sky.
Sure. Yeah.
So before we even get into that, let's talk about going back to you as a childhood. Where you was based at and things like that.
Well, you know what? I always say to everybody, even though I live in New Jersey now, I've spent some time in Brooklyn, a little time in Manhattan. I am so prideful of the fact that I am from Soundview. All right.
Okay.
The birthplace, or maybe I need to be, politically correct here and say one of the birthplaces of hip hop.
Okay.
I love the fact because I was immediately exposed to the dawn of what has now become such a billion-dollar industry. The area that I lived in, I'll never forget the first time that I actually saw the creation of a initial setup with the turntables, the speakers, and whole 9 yards. We had a
Right.
place called 100 Park.
Okay.
I went to my elementary school was PS 100 and had a huge park behind it.
Right.
And I'll never forget, I was in the midst of playing a 3-man basketball game because I wasn't quite nice enough to play a full court.
Right.
And you're out there all day, you watch your cartoons in the morning, you come out and play basketball all day. And as I turn down, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I see this truck unloading and these people pulling out what we now know as equipment. And it was this guy. I thought he was amazing at the time. His name was Disco King Mario.
Okay.
And you know what? As the afternoon went on, you started seeing the turntables being laid out, and then you see the wires and the cables, and then you see the speakers, and then you heard the music, because our relation to music at the time was based upon that little transistor radio in your parents' house or your mom's house.
Most definitely, yes.
And then of course, BLS KTU was on at the time, and that was great, but that music now coming in such high fidelity to you in a park was just amazing. It was just mind-blowing. So you really heard the quality of the instruments and the production and all of that. And then once the music was up, there was this little narrow guy, Mario, that was responsible for all of that happening.
Right.
And he was the nicest guy in the world, and it was just amazing to see the effect that he had on the community.
Okay.
And as time went by and as DJs started to, progress, we used to hear stories about other people. It's like, we're all living in New York, but you used to hear about other DJs
Yeah.
as if it were a foreign land.
Yeah, well, back in those days, there was the Grandmaster Flash.
Yes.
There was the Charisma Funk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys from, I don't know if you remember Reeves Beach.
Oh, sure.
Back in the days
Sure,
where
sure.
used to have Yamba and the rest of the other guys that used to play in the park back there. And that's how I really got interested into being a DJ myself.
Yes.
But from there, where did it actually take you? Did you have a projection of when you got older or something that you really wanted to get involved with musically?
Well, I realized the power of being involved with that at the time, because outside of these bigger names, there were local crews. I was, part of a bunch of guys that got together. We were the Soundworks crew.
Okay.
and how we actually got our records before going to, travel to record stores. We were privileged to have this gentleman in the building. I lived in Leland, the building called Leland on Theriot Avenue. And there was this gentleman in there named Lenny Roberts. It was Mr. and Mrs. Roberts. And Lenny Roberts would have all of us kids come in, and he had the latest break beats at the time.
Oh, okay.
The key to being a cutting edge DJ was to have that actual breakbeat of the week, because that's how,
Wow, that's amazing.
They were known as secret weapons.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
right,
To the
right.
point, of course, everybody knows you used to block out the label.
Exactly.
Inevitably, the song would be released to all the other DJs, but you had to be first. And that got my exposure to other bigger crews. But then I was able to travel over to Bronx River, and experience Kool Herc and the Herculoids.
Right, okay.
To actually not only hear the stories about these guys, but actually see DJ Barron, DJ Breakout, and the Sasquatch system. The Disco Twins. Things like that.
I remember the Twins, man.
What?
They had the Berthas.
That's right. With the Richard Long system.
The Richard Long Berthas,
That's
yes.
right. That's right. And I spent most of my childhood, absorbing all of this stuff.
Right.
And then I'll never forget that I got my next level of experience when it came to what it took to be a good DJ, where I used to travel across town and on several occasions get turned down from getting into the disco fever. There was a gentleman by the name of Mandingo who was security, and he was the, not necessarily on the level of Studio 54, but he was the guy that made the decision of whether you got in or not. And I remember after like 3 attempts, he finally said, just come on in.
Right.
And it was like very ceremonious for me to walk in, because once I got in, like on the 4th time, as I'm walking up the steps, it was Grandmaster Flashes and the Furious Fives.
Right.
I'm Nasty. So it starts with a trumpet like da 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 da. It was almost like I was granted my gate into the. And
Give him the red carpet.
Give him the red carpet as I was walking up these dark stair steps.
Right.
And to finally be able to experience Junebug, Disco Big, Sweet G,
Right.
DJ Starchild.
And it's funny that you mention that, because a lot of guys that are really at that time, man, were discovered there.
Oh yeah,
Sal was the owner of Disco Fever.
absolutely. I was able
And
to.
he really used to go out, his crew used to go out, because these guys started playing in the streets. Louis Vega.
Right.
And amongst other guys, and he actually turned them into what they are right now.
Yes. At the Fever, the one thing I remember outside of all the DJs that you would see in the street is it was the first time that I saw DJs actually DJing at the same time while they were singing.
Oh, wow.
These guys were singing and DJing and motivating the crowd at the same time. I would like to say a little bit before Kid Capri, where he's a master showman, but he's hyping the crowd while he's DJing, and that's way more difficult.
A gift.
That's a gift.
Definitely,
That's a gift.
yeah.
But these guys were very, very vocal and very melodious with their flow, and it's just something, full scale entertainment. It was fantastic, a fantastic experience. So then I went on from that to as I was getting a little older, I was going to get some tax money back one year.
Okay.
And this is like my later teens up until I was 19, 20, right? By the time I turned 21, I went to the American Bartending School.
Okay.
The reason why I did that is because it was a lifetime placement program that they had in place. And the first interview I went on was the first interview I got. And I started working at the Silver Shadow on 57th Street.
I remember the Silver Shadow,
as a
yeah.
bartender. I worked for a great guy named Steve. There was a woman named Esther at the time that managed the club. But Steve owned all of these clubs that were just hot at the time. So
Right.
I find
Were
myself.
they affiliated with the Best of Friends?
I am not sure. I just know.
They had Justine's, and
Right.
they had.
But yeah,
Silver
well, those
Shadow.
were different. Those were different places to go. And Justine's was for very much so a mature crowd. You couldn't get in Justine's
that,
without
true.
a jacket. You
My
had to
bad,
be.
yes,
you had to
yes.
be after work, and you had to be correct.
Right.
But with the Shadow, it was more of a loose because they had the right combination of funk, R&B, and then club music. And house music, but they had a little bit of everything for everybody.
Right.
And then I found out that Steve not only owned the Silver Shadow, but it was Bentley's,
Right, Bentley's,
you know, the Red Parrot, and Bentley's was on fire at the time. So for me to be in this world, and to this day, I'm friends with an amazing guy who's guided me along on so many different levels, Kevin Sugar Daddy.
I'm just thinking about Sugar Daddy.
Yeah, man, he's a great guy.
I met him when I worked for Elmo Christian.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He had a club called Laughs.
Okay.
I don't know if you know about that. It was in Midtown Manhattan. I used to play, and I met Kevin there that night, you know, because he played at Silver Shadows, Bentley's. He was all over the place. But that whole corporation was called the Best of Friends, just to let you know.
Got you.
You know, they all incorporated together, and they had all these fabulous clubs together, and they're still doing it in a sense. Well, Kevin has taken over to the point where he's still making it successful at that point, you know, as far as the club's concerned. But you can go ahead.
Well, no, the thing I liked about that time was like a graduation period, because going from break beats and hip hop and the core elements of what that was, and just being there. People tell you stories about it, but then when you're actually standing there and you're living that experience, to be able to now progress rather than playing these artists, actually meeting these artists.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
There was the Dr. York, Colonel Abrams cameo.
Yeah.
All these guys used to come through, and then your relationship as a bartender would transcend into the other clubs. So then that's how I met Scotty Flash, Leviticus, the Collie Ones, you know, just all these different, you know, places that would, and then wind up finding myself in New Jersey at Zanzibar.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Now, you know, at the time, to travel as a young person from New York to New Jersey, it was like, wow, this is like
I can imagine.
a different experience
Yeah.
traveling over the river there and being part of that as well.
Okay.
So over time, that club life got to be a bit much for me. You know what I'm saying? So if you come from a kid who's, in the no-frills section of Pathmark,
Right.
and not having much money and not, you know, being the flyest guy in the crew or whatever the case may be, you know, to be able to now have everything that you might have wanted, you know, be careful what you wish for. Well, I had a little too much of everything. And after 21, by the time I was 25, I said, you know what, I got to get a regular job. So I took a regular job at a law firm, in the mailroom at a law firm.
Right.
To this day, this is my 35th year as being a litigation law clerk at a major law firm in New York
Okay.
City. But at that firm is where I met my wife, Denise. We were friends at first. And, you know, when she told me that she was with Sky, being a hip hop person, a musical person already prior to me meeting her, it really wasn't about that. I wasn't really that impressed, because it was just like, oh, we used to, you know, and she didn't know the influence that she had on hip hop. So at that time,
Right,
Sky
right.
was already worldwide. They were
Yes.
going around, they were performing with these great artists, doing the Budweiser Superfest, Madison Square Garden and all that. But they weren't clear about the effect that they had in their own backyard, in particular, the Bronx and in Soundview.
Right,
You
right.
know what I'm saying? And then, long story short, we became friends over time. We realized how much we liked each other. But prior to that, everybody wanted to be a rapper. So I had, along with two other gentlemen, we had a record deal on Star Vision International Records, where now I hope everybody doesn't laugh too hard, we were the first unicycle rap group
Unicycle.
in the industry. We had a gentleman, a friend of mine, Kwame, lived in Soundview. So my name is Austin Kwame Wilkinson. His name is Kwame Kerr. But there was a gentleman by the name of Robert Goins who used to actually perform in the only black act in the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, called the King Charles Riders.
Okay.
And once he moved to Soundview, he turned around and taught us how to ride these unicycles. One thing led to another. Star Vision International Records gave us a deal. Jimmy Dockett, who was the president of that company, turned around and started marketing us. And the first show that we had was at IS 131 in Soundview with the Force MCs, not the Force MDs, the Force MCs.
Okay.
They had just released Let Me Love You, and
Yes,
for us to
yes,
open
yeah.
for them at the time was mind-blowing. And we were able to work on that record actually with a gentleman by the name of Fred McFarlane.
Okay.
He taught us a lot. The first time I think I've ever heard an 808 drum kick, you know, and its ability to affect the body.
Yes. That was a machine back in the days. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so we spent time in Quad Studios, which has become famous or infamous for so many different things, and had spent time in there.
Okay.
during the course of our friendship, Denise and I's friendship, they were recording their last album, and I find myself in that same studio with Randy Muller and Solomon Roberts from Sky.
So we're going to hold it right there, and we're going to take a slight little break, and we'll be right back.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight. And we're back. The show is called The Legends. And in the House of the Legends, I have
Austin, Kwame,
I have him.
Wilkinson.
I have him. No, I'm only kidding.
Yo,
we have Austin, Kwame Wilkinson in the house.
That's right, that's right.
I call him the backbone of Sky because I see that his ability and his business ethics always be in sync to the point where he makes them really, really successful. That's my point of view and things like that.
I was trusted with a gift. I was literally, like the whole package, gifted the ability to work with Sky. As I told you, we were in Quad. It was the production of their last album, Nearer to You, and at the time, it was the transition from all the bands, all the classic bands and stuff like that, to the R&B and hip hop. All you needed was a producer, a rapper, and a singer. And they were on Atlantic at the time, and they were released from their contract, much like other groups.
Well, you were with them when they actually made a transition from Atlantic to South Soul.
No. South Soul was first.
South Soul. Yeah.
Atlantic was the last label
Right.
that we're on.
My question to you is, how do you develop such business skills in order, and not just in one area, but multi areas to make it work?
Just persistence. You know, people have been telling me no for a long time. And once I realized that such an iconic body of music was being discarded, I just decided to pick up the ball. And at that point, when I showed the initiative to say, we can continue to do this, Randy Muller, Solomon Roberts, Gerald LeBron, Annabelle Bucci Sierra, Larry Greenberg, the members of, and especially Tommy McConnell.
Right.
I was at the house of Solomon Roberts, and he gave me a tape with 3 songs on it: Let's Celebrate, Here's to You, and Call Me.
Okay.
So I now realize that the band was not going to get together. No beef, no drama. It's just there was a change in the music and the change in time. I turned around and took that tape and started doing shows with the 3 sisters, with the Ladies of Sky.
Right.
Which
has been successful, by the way.
Well,
in a sense.
It was, because
I mean, let's talk about the last week.
Yes.
At the what's the name?
At the cutting room.
Right.
At the cutting room.
I heard about the response. I've seen some of the pictures online. Fabulous, man.
It was great because initially I was at the cutting room, and in 2023, what I did the reunion of the entire Sky band.
Okay.
And that was totally sold out. So I decided to come back with the ladies and see if we could do that again. And it absolutely worked out. And throughout the 35 years of me being involved with Sky, all I've ever heard from the founders, the writers, the arrangers, and composers, they've said, Austin, what else do you need? They trusted me to keep that level of progression going,
right.
And I hope that I've made them proud. What happened in 2022 is that we lost Tommy McConnell, and when I got that tape from Solomon Roberts, and I was afraid that tape was going to break, I was able to bring that tape to Tommy McConnell, who had a studio at the time called Culture Sound in downtown Brooklyn, in the Drew Alleman Square area in Brooklyn. I said, oh my goodness, Tommy, could you please make me a copy of the tape? And he says, don't worry about it, come back in 2 weeks. When I came back 2 weeks later, he had a CD, which was major at the time, taking us from analog to digital.
Right.
He had a CD with 10 performance tracks on it, and he handed it to me, and he says, Austin, I just want you to go and keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
And that was it. And then being further assisted when it came to the refurbishing of the tracks and just being able to take everything to the next level, that's where Randy Muller comes in. That's where Solomon Roberts comes in. I've been constantly embraced by my mentors and by my elders this whole time. this whole 35 years. So in 2022, when we lost Tommy McConnell, I went to Solomon Roberts and I said, I know you guys have been busy doing this and that and because we've never had any beef and any drama, do you think you might want to see if we can get back together again? And Solomon Roberts said, let's go. And then right after the cutting room in 2023, I was able to take the whole band to Paris.
That is so crazy.
It was, and Sky had never been to Paris. All these other places that they've never been to. So it was a first.
Let's talk about the development of your marketing strategies, dealing with all these things that come at you. How do you actually deal with it to the point, if somebody actually puts an idea in existence, how do you filter it to greatness?
You know what? Just I would say that it stems from me actually being on the street when they had street teams, handing out flyers and this like that, and being persistent. And now transitioning into the digital age, my team was clowning me because, as an incentive, they told me that emailing and texting people flyers that had as great as Sky was on them was not social media.
Right.
So once I realized that I wasn't getting any phone calls, I wasn't going to be able to communicate with people, especially in 2020, that's what forced me to get, or at least introduce myself or open myself up to Facebook. And I have a team that helps me with the Instagram. And then that's when I knew that, much like having a street team and handing out flyers on the world scale, now opened me up. As soon as I started doing that, that's when I started getting calls from DJs and radio personalities from around the world.
Right.
So during the pandemic, because we have our day jobs, during the pandemic, the Ladies of Sky wound up doing at least 2 interviews every single week for the entire 4 or 5 years of the pandemic. And that
my show was one of them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I reposted that. Yeah, I reposted that.
It's funny how things happen in life and how people meet and how people greet, and things. But what I liked about you is that when we had the conversation on the phone yesterday, how you actually brought out your whole team in front of everybody and let them know this is what makes us who we are today. Well, and that's very important that you acknowledge them for who they are and give them love, man, because you know what? You made them feel wholesome that way. You know who were the first 2 people? When I came up with the concept of the Ladies of Sky, the first 2 people to say, Austin, I get it, was Helena Crump and Vera Foster.
Cousin. That's right. They were
Hey, Helena.
They were the first ones to say, you know what? I don't know how crazy this ride's going to be, but you know what? We're going to get on with you, and we'll see how far this goes. Before we even go there, I'm getting on you and Denise. Yes. Because I haven't got my Yazoo yet. Oh, the Sky Zoo. Yeah, should have definitely brought one. But it's okay, though. But you know what? I have something else for you that might make up for that. Okay. And yeah, it's got to be about the team. No one does it by themselves. Right. Too many areas to cover in order to satisfy the public at large. And I think that I've been just very fortunate on not taking any of this personally. The one thing that I have been told by music historians around me, and I just felt that I had to make sure that I was careful when I said this or, made it public. As it turns out, I come to find out that the Ladies of Sky were the last all-original classic sister group left in entertainment. Isn't that amazing? And I had to think about that. I said, well hold on, that's talking crazy. But then they started running down the lists, and I don't want to mention names, but think of any girl group, or not even girl group, let's be clear, sister group that has been around for, this past 35 years that we've been around, and we're the last of what's left. I think that we would hope that we're a breath of fresh air to anybody else's lineup. I would say so. Going on. I would say so because people are still having reactions to Ladies of Sky. It's a reflection of just the love that we have, and that is attached still to the band. So I can go right now. There's a gentleman that also, when we were on the road, when we were going to Paris, there's a gentleman named Ron Saunderson, who was the original sound man, who was the original me. Back in the 70s, who has the privilege of being with the original road manager, the original sound guy, the original person that made the, behind the scenes work. And I'm learning from him to this day. You know what I'm saying? And I'm very humbled. When we did the Soul Train, because this is the story of my life.
Right.
When we did the Soul Train cruise last year, and we were on the beginning part of that, it was a week. We were on a Monday. Our show wasn't up till Friday or Saturday. So we were able to watch all the other iconic groups prior to. So by the time Friday came, Saturday came, our entire audience were the groups that were before us. And when we finally did our shows, all these other groups that do this for a living said, well, Austin, where has this been? I'm like, no, let's not do that. I've been trying to get on this boat. I've been trying to get into these circles for over a decade. And then once we actually were able to sit down and they were able to appreciate what we had to offer and we watched them, they sat me down.
Okay.
As a grown man, all these other groups said, Austin, when that person's finished with you, I'd like to have a meeting with you to let you know what you need to be doing and how to make your all of your efforts even greater.
You know, we got like 2 minutes, but I
Gotcha.
have to say this. We have to bring in Unsung.
Oh, yes.
So how did they actually approach you guys? with
Well, that was interesting. So we had someone that was able to put us in contact with someone from the network.
Right.
And what happened was once I found out that we had a chance, I got all these videotapes from my basement, and I had them redone. I have a guy who's a great transfer artist, and sent them into the station. So when I initially sent them in, I got a call a couple of weeks later, and they said, one person turns around and says, you know, Austin, all the stuff that you sent in is great, but I just don't think it's what we're looking for. You know what I'm saying? Because as I mentioned, we all have so much love for each other, so we don't really have the signature drama, fighting, self-abuses, and all of that.
Right.
So I kind of threw my hands up, and I thought that, well, that's it. We tried. We're going to miss our chance, but maybe I'll be persistent and work on something else.
Right.
6 months later, I get a call from another producer from Unsung. He says, Austin, my editors just found out that you had this stuff laying around here, and when can we start? And I was like, wow. And wound up crafting the episode to whereas we were able to maintain our standards. We had no sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And right now, if you go to Peacock, you can go to Unsung TV1 on Peacock and see the unsung story of Sky. And you won't have to look far because we were the last episode. One fun fact I'd like to add about that is that our episode aired on March 15th, 2020.
Okay.
The next day, the pandemic hit and the world shut down. So when I say that our episode just got under the gate, that was the best blessing that one could ever, in entertainment, could ever imagine.
Before we end the show,
Sure.
which is going to be actually in a few seconds.
Sure, gotcha. Thank you for having me.
Who do you want to actually shout out to quickly?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I got to shout out to the rest of our family, my brothers, Walter and Edward. I would like to shout out the other two sisters, Ladies of Sky, because, you know, I married Denise, but Bonnie and Dolores, I just want to let you know how much I love and appreciate you trusting me. I spent many years with their parents. Their mother wasn't quite sure about me, but you know what? I stood the test of time because I didn't do anything different than what I'm doing now. I'm not a complicated person, very simple guy, and what you see is what you get.
Okay, so it's been a pleasure, man.
Oh, thank you.
Pleasure having you on my show.
Oh yeah, thank you. This is
we
great.
could do this all day.
We can.
But I want to thank everybody for actually watching the show, and you guys keep reaching out. Keep supporting Sky. Ladies of Sky.
Yes.
And if you got any questions about Sky, you can talk to Austin.
Right.
I'll make sure that his information is edited on the footage.
Yeah.
And stay tuned for another T-Lo video production. I thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.